Today, we're answering a question from a viewer about should I hire my spouse and children? So, we are going to dive in on is this a big opportunity or a big mistake? Let me grab Walt and we'll dive right in.
Back on Power Your Retirement, Walter Storholt here alongside Steve Smith, Certified Financial Planner, Powerhouse Financial Advisors. And we're going to answer a great question from Nate on today's show. We'll get to the actual question in a moment. But Steve, first, I want you to explain real fast. I know that this is not necessarily the question that you get all the time from your clients talking about themselves, but usually they're involved in a discussion like this when you get this question. Explain that for us.
Sure. This is actually a much more common question than you might think working with employees of utilities. But it is because all those people that work there, a lot of times, if they don't both work there, have spouses. And either they're asking about side hustles, family businesses, whether it's for the spouse or they're all family as, doing something together. But a lot of times it's, for their brother, dad, mom, whoever has a business in their close family unit. So, and that usually a lot of times they're semi-involved, maybe in a busy season or something. And they always ask this question either for a family member or a lot of times they're just looking for some tax breaks because utility workers have some really unique skills that are highly compensated.
Yeah, it's a great point. Let's get to this question then from Nate, and we'll see and dig in a little bit here. So we don't know if Nate's, an employee of a utility company and asking this question for a side hustle, or maybe it's Nate's spouse that has this question. But however it is, I think we'll be able to provide a little bit of guidance. So Nate says, I'm self-employed and run a small business. I've heard some people say you can hire your spouse or even your kids to work for the business and that there could be some tax benefits. Is that true? How does it work? And are there any other advantages or things I should watch out for? So let's just look at that kind of from that wide view, I guess. What are the potential tax benefits? Why has Nate heard this before, where you can hire a spouse or children to work in your family business?
There's a lot of benefits. One is if they work, it's a deduction, right? Straight off the top, you get a deduction for any additional payroll that kids or a spouse does. So you get that payroll tax savings. Also, there's a retirement element that we can probably dive in a little bit deeper. But the spouse can do a little bit more retirement. If the spouse is taking wages, there's Social Security, and there's a whole list of things there, and those contributions. All of those things are really good, not to mention healthcare benefits.
Yeah, I can see that moving the needle a lot for people. Are there some specific rules? I imagine so, if we're dealing with the IRS and tax benefits and looking for ways to, I'm not going to say cut corners, but to maximize our opportunities. Are there some rules that go along with all this kind of stuff that we've got to follow?
Yeah, there's a lot of rules. So if you're gonna start to dig into this, that's not something you want to just take from your neighbor that, oh yeah, that's great, everything's awesome, and I just make all this money and we did all this. You want to actually dive in and do it correct, because the IRS is really looking. It's one of the areas where people, whether it's on purpose or not, get in trouble with the IRS. So you got to be careful around this. One is reasonable wages, and in the world of Chat GPT, it's pretty easy to find reasonable wages for specific jobs, or at least ballparking. So yeah. So that kind of went away, because that was a major question before that came out a couple of years ago. How do I find reasonable wages? And then we were looking at like all kinds of different websites that would report on that.
It's still kind of funny that it's an IRS rule that's still pretty nebulous, and I don't know, you could probably massage that quite a bit.
You definitely can. They're also going to challenge you on what type of outputs are going on there. It's not just about titles. So that's why you want to write down hours. You want to write down all kinds of, a detailed plan of what their work is and what they did, for sure. If you would get audited, you'd have to provide that for sure.
Okay, excellent. So, does doing this automatically, like I remember when I filed my taxes in years past, I always remember the home deduction,
Oh yeah,
in
home
TurboTax
office.
or H&R Block or whatever.
Yeah,
Whenever I would do that and I would check that, yeah, I want to take the home office deduction, all these warnings would pop up of like, your audit risk goes up when you do this, just FYI, letting you know. And you get all these warnings. So
right.
that's what I'm thinking with something like this. Does this automatically increase my IRS scrutiny if I try to do methods like this?
It does. It's exactly like what you just said. That's a red flag, or at least a yellow flag. Maybe not red, but if you're paying lots of taxes, usually those things tend to wash out on the risk level. I'm not saying, I'm not giving any encouragement to do something not good, but if you're not making any money and you're taking huge deductions in different areas, you're probably going to get called out for it, whether that's your real situation or not. Just make sure you're above board and you're reasonable about it. You document, you've got hours or however you structure that and how you came up with that amount. Because if they do, it's probably going to start as letters from the IRS. Just know that they don't come from real people; they come from computers. Until about the third round, then you might get a real person. So some of these are just automated from red flags. Know that.
Yeah, I like that. That's helpful. All right, you mentioned earlier that there would be some retirement planning options for a family that utilize some of these strategies. So, how does hiring a spouse or children impact some of those opportunities that are available?
Well, this is one of the most exciting things about the whole process, I believe, because we're going to talk about part A of that here, and hopefully a little bit later, maybe we can go into B. But when you hire your spouse, your spouse is going to be able to, be more into the Social Security, if she, rather than just working in it for free, if you're there, she can build her Social Security benefits, disability benefits through Social Security, and also that income that we all look forward to in retirement that comes from that. There's also SEP IRAs. You could set up a Roth 401, Roth 401k or just a regular 401k, and there's a whole long list of those types of things. Depending on how much everyone makes, you could have Roth IRAs along with those things. So there's a lot of things going on there. But speaking of the Roth IRA, it's where the kids are involved, the ones under 18. And now I'm going back to those specific rules as well. If you're a sole proprietor or an LLC as a sole proprietor and you hire your own kids, when you pay them, you get a tax deduction, full top line tax deduction. But if they make under certain limits, so that's where you got to check. I think it's 12,000 ish as of now. Please look that up. But it's pretty high still if they can make that much. No federal, no state, no Social Security, no Medicare. Tax free to them. And if it goes into a Roth, grows for 50 years, comes out, all the growth comes out tax free. It's the best deal out there. It absolutely is for the kids. And if they want their Roth, after they turn 18, they could use it for education too if you wanted. So it doubles as an education fund as well.
Well, that's pretty interesting. Is that, would you almost consider that kind of as like a 529 alternative in a way?
It is. Yeah.
Okay.
I still would encourage 529s because that works just like a Roth as well. But it's education only. But I would, the nice part about that is I would do the education planning separate, but then the Roth can be a backup for that. But how do you go wrong? It's hard to spend that on education when you've got after-tax money that wasn't taxed that can grow tax-free for 50 years. I would caution someone, unless it's absolutely necessary, for using that particular Roth for education, because that bet you're never going to get that again. That is the best deal out there from the government.
Okay, very cool. We'll talk some more about that kind of B flip side here in a moment. You talked about business tax advantages as well, potentially being involved in this. So, are there specific benefits to the business side, in addition to that, kind of initial deduction that you were talking about, that makes this make a lot of sense, not just for the family members, but also for the business?
It does. There's all kinds of different things. And one of the things that you can do for the sole proprietor side of it is you get to write off all the wages. You can do the healthcare benefits. Also, if you have a child that's been working in your business and they go off to college and they can work remotely, that works really good. You can put an education assistance for employees together. Has to be written, so look into the rules. But you can actually give some of that. You can give tuition assistance. There's certain limits on it to your own kids. So check into that. That one's got a lot of hooks to it. So I'll leave that there. But there's even some education benefits that you could do.
Okay, excellent. And now let's talk about some common mistakes. So if somebody's interested in going down this route, do you see folks making some wrong turns here when they try to hire family members to take advantage of some of these things that we've talked about? What should we avoid doing?
Probably the number one is not documenting it. Kind of road to hell is paved with good intentions. I think everybody that goes down the road of hiring family and kids, it's just so comfortable because like, hey, go do this, because they're just part of your family unit. Not documenting will get you in trouble every time. So be very careful with that. Also tracking, paying, how you're paying them. Well, the hours to the dollars, raises, all of those things. Just like an employee, you would document those. Make sure you don't treat your spouse and your kids any differently. And I'm going to give you another one. Make sure if your business grows and you go from a sole proprietorship into an S Corp, all the rules change. There's new tax benefits on that side, but just know as you grow your business and you get into these more sophisticated, types of businesses, S Corps, C Corps, that kind of thing, partnerships, the rules change with family, with spouse and kids drastically. So be very careful. Because people will start out sole prop, and then they'll be all excited, and all the family's all in on this deal. And then when they get bigger to S Corp or C Corp, they're kind of doing the same thing, but then they take those deductions, and then the IRS flags it, and it gets ugly.
Yeah, make sure we're documenting and doing the right stuff. But absolutely great questions to kind of poke around with on today's show. I know this is a little bit outside the box from the normal thing that you talk about, Steve, but I appreciate you tackling it. And I know that you'll have clients where these kinds of things will come up. And I think it's a fun illustrator of that. As you're talking about somebody's investments and their 401k and where to put that and how to plan for retirement, you can start to see how that blossoms and opens up to other questions and other financial planning elements. This just being kind of one slice of that grander pie. So appreciate you walking down that road with us. If you want to find out some more information about what it's like to work with Steve, not only with things like this, but of course with your financial plan, your 401k, how to maximize it while you're working, as you approach retirement and into retirement. Those are the kinds of things that he's covering each and every day with clients and the folks that he's working with. So if you want to see if you'd be a good fit to work with one another, pick up the retirement toolkit that Steve has put together for you. It's going to be packed with his book and other helpful information. You can do that by going to powerupyour401k.com, powerupyour401k.com. We've got that linked in the description of today's show, so you can access it easily, along with some other ways to contact Steve and get in touch as well. Steve, thanks so much for the help. We appreciate it today.
Yes, thank everyone for tuning into this. And what I didn't mention is we do have tax professionals on staff for some of those fine details. So reach out and we can get some of those fine details answered for you as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And we'll see everybody next time right back here on Power Your Retirement. This podcast is provided by Powerhouse Financial Advisors, an independent firm with advisory services offered through Parsonex Advisory Services, Inc., PAS, a federally registered investment advisor. The information provided is for informational and educational purposes only and should not be considered as personalized investment advice. PAS does not guarantee the accuracy, completeness, or suitability of this information for your specific circumstances. Investment decisions should be based on an individual's goals, time horizon, and risk tolerance. Past performance is not indicative of future results, and all investments carry a degree of risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any case studies, testimonials, or endorsements shared in this podcast are illustrative of individual experiences and may not be representative of the experience of all clients. They do not guarantee future performance or success. You should not infer any level of assurance regarding future financial outcomes. Listeners should consult with a qualified financial, tax, or legal professional before making any investment decisions. Parsonex Advisory Services, Inc. does not provide tax or legal advice. Be sure to consult with your tax and legal professionals regarding your specific circumstances. For a copy of our Form ADV Part 2A, which provides additional information about PAS, including our advisory fees and services, please visit powerhousefinancialadvisors.com.